You know, when I was watching a show on the History Channel, I don't know, it was a while back. It was a History Channel or Discovery or TLC or something like that. And it was on people kind of survival or getting lost in the wilderness or in the mountains or in the forest, hiking or something like that. And when people get lost, many times they make the one grave mistake. If when they're lost, they just keep going. You know, like, I'm going to find my way out if I just go another couple of miles. Where usually they would have been saved or their ordeal would have been less traumatic if they just simply turned around and retraced their steps. Tracy, I thought Brad was going to be here today. Did Brad ever get the toilet fixed? Soaking through the ceiling?
Yes.
He did. Now, why wouldn't have Brad or anybody, they had a toilet leaking upstairs and it created a moldy spot in the ceiling. Why wouldn't we just have thrown a bucket underneath that and said, it'll catch the drips? Why don't you do that around your house? Okay, something's leaking, just throw a bucket under there. Yeah, it just gets worse. You know, we had an older home back in North Carolina. The sink, the couplings or seals on the underneath on the pipes were leaking, and I could have just thrown a bucket underneath there and said, you know, cross my fingers, out of sight, out of mind, it'll be okay. But it gets worse. You know, we could put Band-Aids on it. And that's essentially what a bucket is underneath a leaky faucet or whatever. We could put Band-Aids on it, but the problem is going to get worse. Likewise, when you get lost in the mountains or the desert, or not the desert, but in the forest or wherever, you can keep going, but you're probably going to get more and more lost, and it's going to turn into a big fiasco. Or you could turn around, retrace your steps, and get back to where you should have been. And that's what Jesus is doing in a sense here. You know, he could have just put Band-Aids on the issue, but instead he goes all the way back to the source of the problem, back to Adam. Where Adam screwed up, where Adam got it wrong, Jesus is getting it right. That's why we've got the genealogy here continuing past Abraham all the way to Adam. Where Adam got it wrong, Jesus is getting it right. Jesus is getting to the source of our issues here. Tom. Yeah. And we'll really delve into that next week. You know, when we get more into that temptation. Yeah, absolutely, Tom. That's excellent. You know, so Jesus is getting to the root of the issue here. And, you know, we all have our issues. I assume we all have our problems. We talk about sin, you know, and I never want to take that for granted. What is sin? You know, we can use these words that some of us who have grown up in church know about, but if we don't, we may not know what that is. Somebody give us maybe a decent or your understanding of what is sin? It's a simple definition. I don't want anything fancy.
This is really interesting because yesterday in my quiet time board, I put down the word sin, and then I looked up every single word that would follow it, like in the word of sin, and it came up with deceitful, honor, mockery, sexual impurity, disobedience, you know, on and on and on. So, I mean, there was tons of words in the Bible that represent sin.
Pretty all-encompassing, isn't it? What do all of those things essentially do? No matter what you want to put in there, whatever Paulette said, what do those things do to us or for us, or not for us, but to us? Okay, they tempt us, yeah. Separate us from whom? From God. Yeah, and I think that's a very simple yet good, all-encompassing understanding of what sin is. Anything that separates us separates us from God. I'm not thinking of any other good words, but separates our relationship with God is a good, just broad definition of what sin is. I want us to all be on the same page as that, but we all have sin in our lives. We all have our problems, our issues, and And I think Luke here reminds us, we've all got our issues. We've all got sin that we struggle with. We've got things in our lives. What are we going to do with those things? We can stick our fingers in our ears and hum really loud and maybe pretend they're not there. We could, go to marriage counseling and try to fix our marriage problems. We can go to anger management. We can spend more time with our kids. We can try to watch better TV programs. We can watch what we listen to. All those things are, I suppose, good things to do. But they're just really, at the core, Band-Aids for deeper issue in our lives. The deeper issue is essentially our separation from God, which goes all the way back to the temptation of Adam, which we see in all areas of our lives. So we can live with Band-Aids in one sense. We really can't in another sense. In the spiritual sense, we can't live with Band-Aids. Or we can let Jesus go to the root of the problem. Where we fail, where Adam failed, we can look to Jesus and say, wow, here is the real solution, the permanent fix to our problems, to our sin, to all the issues that we struggle with and that we deal with. And I think that's what's going on here as we move to the genealogy, the focus on Adam, the temptation. What are we really going to do? Where are we going to move on from here as we confront the issues in our lives? Are we going to let Jesus confront those things and get to the root of them and begin to fix them and clean them up for us? Or are we going to struggle along with Band-Aids that really don't do anything but hide a deeper issue? I think that's what Luke has us doing this morning. So obviously I would challenge myself, thinking of the songs that we've sang this morning, to relax and let God take over. Let Jesus get to the source of our issues. Let Him overcome where we fail. The temptation that we fall to, let Jesus succeed. That's where life is found. That's where true success is found. That's where spiritual vitality is found. That's where life itself is found. Whenever I encounter things, it seems like, I'll talk to Brianne about it, and usually the first thing she'll say is, have you prayed about it? Have you taken it to God? Like, God, no. How long have I been doing this Christianity thing? And 20 years later, I still have to be reminded frequently to take it back to God. As a pastor, one of the biggest temptations as a pastor is to do it yourself. To attempt to make a church flourish and succeed yourself and forget about, whoa, this isn't my church, this isn't anybody's church, it's Christ's church, and He does the work, the Spirit's doing the work, it's not me. It's if it is, it's headed in the wrong direction, and it's doomed to fail anyway. But that's just the pastor's temptation frequently, is to work really hard and to do it yourself. And that's something that I always have to keep reminded of, that it's Christ doing the work, and to plug in and get to the source of Him, and not what I can do or a new book or something along those lines. So, anybody else have any thoughts on that? I think that it's a very human thing that we try to do, is fix our problems ourselves. When Christ is there with open arms, ready to get to the source of the issue and to be the source Himself. That's a good point. We get ourselves into so much trouble by trying to fix problems ourselves. So, yeah. Hindsight really reveals things about how we have created our own messes, our own idols, or however you want to put that. Anything else this morning? Really good thoughts. Think about that some more this week. If you got any other ideas, throw it on our Facebook not a website, but our Facebook page, and let it bounce off of some other people. So next week then we'll delve back into 4 and look more closely at the temptation of Jesus, and we'll move through there then.